everyone. This is the Puyallup City Council meeting for July 1st, 2025. I want to welcome everyone here this evening. If you'll notice on the dais, it's a little shallow up here. It's because we have two people who are virtual this evening, and we have someone else who has an excused absence. But if you can see, we have 4 total members who are here in person, and again, 2 who are virtual. So we do have ample number of council members present. With that, would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Deputy Mayor King.
Present.
Councilmember Gilliam.
Present.
Councilmember Whitting.
Present.
Councilmember Dorr.
Present.
Councilmember Adler.
Excused.
Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
Mayor Castema.
Present. With that, I'd like to move to the item number 1, approval of the agenda, but I'd like to make 2 modifications. Under 2 presentations and proclamations, I would like to add 2B, a presentation, very, very brief, by Deputy Chief Massey regarding fireworks on the 4th of July, the kinds of regulations we have in Puyallup. And finally, 2C, on an ordinance that was distributed that would just change the start time for fireworks on July the 4th from 9 in the morning till 12 at noon. Seems like a fairly reasonable request. So with that, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as modified?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, excellent. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, excellent. Let's move on to presentations and proclamations.
Chair, I'm opposed.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to presentations and proclamations. 2A is a proclamation regarding the Parks Department in the city of Puyallup. I think it's been long known that this is one of the pride and joys in the city of Puyallup, so it's a great honor to give this proclamation. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Puyallup, whereas Parks and Recreation promote health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks. And whereas Parks and Recreations promote time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being, and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, Alzheimer's, etc. Whereas Parks and Recreation encourage physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, open spaces, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. Whereas Parks and Recreation is a leading provider of healthy meals, nutrition services, and education. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and enrichment education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Park and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of business, and crime reduction. And whereas the city of Puyallup has 19 parks, 43,000 people, by the way, 19 parks, and 387 acres of parks and open space, recognizing the benefits derived from these resources. And whereas the city of Puyallup recognizes the benefits derived from Parks and Recreation resources, and now therefore be it resolved by the City Council that July is hereby recognized as Parks and Recreation Month. In witness whereof, I, Mayor Jim Castema, have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Puyallup to be affixed this first day of July 1st, 2025. And with that, could we have our Parks and Recreation Director, Cody Geddes, please come forward and accept this resolution. But let's go ahead and give him a hand first, please.
Thank you, Mayor Castema. Thank you, Council. Cody Geddes, Parks and Recreation Director. Just want to say thank you to the Council for all your support for Parks and Recreation and all of our activities. Summertime is really the high time for parks. I mean, we're out there 18 hours a day opening parks, cleaning bathrooms, closing parks, and same with recreation is really our high time here. So kids get dropped off at day camp at 7 in the morning, and those last pitches on our baseball fields are at 11 o'clock at night some nights. And so I see some partners here. So John Hopkins is here with our Riverwalk Trail, Friends of the Riverwalk. We have our Trails Day coming up at the end of this month, which is just an awesome community event, and I see our washed out folks are here as well that are going to extend a new trail from Puyallup to Fife. It's going to be a really great regional connection. At this point, our recreation manager, Dion Boyd, is here, but I'm going to bring up our newest recreation coordinator, Marlis Francis. Marlis came with us from 20 years of experience with the city of Tukwila, and she's already taken over in her first 4 months doing some awesome stuff with sponsorships and events, and I'll let her tell you about some summer activities we have.
Thank you, Cody. Go ahead, Marlis.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for recognizing July as Parks and Recreation Month. As Cody mentioned, I'm a new employee. I've been here almost 3 months, but I wanted to note I did start my professional career here in Puyallup as an intern in college under now retired Director Sarah Harris. So I'm very proud to be back into the community and to be serving all of you. As Cody mentioned, we are very busy. We are very proud professionals to be able to serve the community and provide places and programs for folks to get well, be connected, and just have fun. So we're excited about that. Last week started out our summer with our 10-week summer camp known as Ugatawana at the Memorial Center. We have over 115 kids participating each week for all 10 weeks. We also started a brand new program, hopefully you've heard of. It's called Move Puyallup. It's right behind me now happening. We've got yoga in the park right now. We are working with 2 local fitness studios to be able to provide 5 free fitness classes per week. Last week we had over 350 people check in, so we're pretty pumped about that program and hope that we see more and more individuals come out with their families. Next week, we hit the ground running with our summer events. Tuesday, we start out with our Kids in the Park program. We've got 4 of those. They will be running every other Tuesday from 11 to 1 and supported highly by the Kiwanis Club of Puyallup. Closely after that, we start our very popular Concert in the Park series on Thursday nights. And those are going to be running from 6:30 to 8 all summer. And then Friday night, we have our first of 3 outdoor movies. First one is at the Rec Center on next Friday evening, so we're excited about that. As always, our youth and adult programs are thriving. We've got lots and lots of youth and adults playing sports, as Cody mentioned, in our parks and on our fields. Also wanted to quickly just mention how the great feedback that we did receive on the new wood art sculpture in Pioneer Park. Hopefully all of you have gotten out to see what a great job the artist did on that stump. It looks amazing, everything he did. And he was a great person to talk to and loved talking to people coming up for that. Lastly, just wanted to mention that we're excited to hopefully be opening our Van Leurup Park playground here in the next month. It's been an exciting program and project that we're working on, as well as our skate park design. We're moving forward with that. Again, just wanted to thank you for recognizing Parks and Recreation professionals as being a vital part of our community here in Puyallup. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlis. Would any of my colleagues like to have words? I'd like to open it up only because parks truly are one of the shining lights in this community, one of the commitments we have made now for decades. And just as you can see, we have 19 different parks and 43,000 people. And these aren't just small parks. Some of these are vast. Bradley Lake, the 5 Mile Loop, DeCourcy, we have the whole river walk. All of these are extensive and really add to the quality of life here in Puyallup. And I'm surprised you didn't bring up concerts in the park, just because those are very, very popular that we have. I believe we have 10 of those now. Am I correct? 10 of them a year, and they're going to be starting on July the 10th, and they will be featuring Councilmember Dean Johnson to my right, who is, he's kind of I don't know, I think he should have been a rock star, because he actually does participate in the band some of the time. You won't find me doing that, but you will find him doing that. So again, I want to thank you for that and appreciate that. We're now going to move on to 2B, and we're going to have a very short presentation by Deputy Chief Massey, and all he will do is just familiarize those people who are watching or those people in the audience with the regulations we have in Puyallup on firework displays. And I say this because every year it's a fairly contentious issue in Puyallup. People enjoy their fireworks, but you also have those that find them a tremendous imposition. So we're trying to do the best we can, informing everyone of what is allowed, what is not, and so that hopefully we can make it through in a very civil manner. With that, please, Deputy Chief.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you. Deputy Chief Massey, Puyallup Police. Thank you again for the opportunity to talk about our strategy and our plan for enforcement in education activities for the 4th of July. We'll start with some social media. So our community outreach has worked with the city for starting today with social media posts in regards to the topics that you just discussed. They'll be going on today and every day past the 4th through the 6th, again, for enforcement, education, and what is allowed and is not allowed. There is a piece to this from social media. Chief Engel spoke a couple weeks ago and said for citizens in the city of Puyallup, if you did have some concerns or complaints for fireworks, to call 911 and that we would be responding. And that is still the case. South Sound 911 in their social media posts has said for the citizens of Puyallup to call the non-emergency line. That is also an option for the citizens of Puyallup. That does not change our response. We will still get dispatched 2 calls of concern for fireworks all of the days, the 2nd through the 6th. So whether you call 911 or whether you use South Sound's suggestion to alleviate some of the 911 call volume and use the non-emergency line, we will come to all of those calls as a dispatch call for service. We are not using the online portal that some other cities are using. In regards to some of our staffing, the July 2nd through the 6th, we will increase our staffing beyond what the patrol levels are. These officers will be on duty to proactively look for situations for illegal fireworks as well as respond to the calls for service. So again, these are additional officers that were spelled out when Chief Engel spoke, the different numbers of them and the nights. We're also working hand in hand with the fire marshal on the evening of the 4th, who will be at Station 71 to assist us with enforcement, confiscation of fireworks as needed. So barring any questions, I think that is a good informational from what Chief Engel had put out a couple weeks ago.
Thank you, Deputy
Absolutely.
Chief. Are there any questions? Again, thank you for being here. With that, we're going to move on to 2C, which is before us, and it is a change in the ordinance that would change the start time of fireworks from 9 in the morning till 12, and this would not take effect until 2026. And that is required by law that you actually have to pass it before the 4th, and then it's the actual next 4th is when it goes into effect. So it must be over a year ahead of when it is in fact to go into effect. So that means we really only have one more day to do that, and that's why I brought this for you today. This will not go into effect for 1 year, and that will give us time to educate everybody that it's not 9 in the morning, but it's 12. And I really, to be honest with you, believe that most people had already understood that to be the way it was. But nevertheless, it is 9, and this is a request to change it to 12 o'clock. So with that, what I'm looking for is a motion Normally, this would take a first reading and a second reading, and I'm looking for a motion to suspend the second reading and go first and reading would be the same reading, and we move this forward this evening. So that's the motion I'm looking for. However, I believe we have a few people with their hands up. Councilmember Dorr, do you have a question or a comment, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm not going to move this forward. I wanted to explain my concern with this. We had a study session in April of 2024, and there was not support for the ban. And I understand this is not a ban. I understand that the 3-hour delay is not significant. And I can argue that both ways. It is not a significant change. And I don't think it's going to have a major impact. Based on that, the way that this has been placed on the agenda is inconsistent with the council rules of procedure. It takes 2 council members to add something to an agenda, and it is due on Wednesday prior to, so that this has not been on a published agenda. The public does not have an opportunity to weigh in, nor do they have any idea that this is happening. And we're being asked to suspend first and second reading and enact this. So I can understand the logic that this is a minimal, a minor change, and so that would be fine. However, this has been an ongoing issue, and I don't support the lack of transparency in putting this on an agenda with mainly presentations and lack of citizens' opportunity for engagement. So with that is why I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to consult with Joe Back, our attorney. Procedurally, we made a motion to modify the agenda, which is within the rules. We had the appropriate votes to do so. Tell me, is this vote in line? Have we followed procedure moving forward on this?
I believe the council rules are as Councilmember Dorr stated. That being said, they're the council's rules, and the council, just as you propose waiving first reading and going directly to second reading, you can also vote to suspend the rules with regard to placing it on the agenda, which, I mean, arguably you did by voting 5-1 to put it on the agenda. Essentially, I would interpret that as a motion to waive the rules.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion that we do suspend the rules, first and second reading be at the same time, and that we pass this ordinance. Is there such a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, fine. I believe there is a majority vote. There is a majority vote there. Let's move on to citizens' comments at this time. Keep in mind,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Normally you would call for a roll
Oh,
call
that's
vote.
true, because I combined first and second reading. I apologize. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gilliam,
Aye.
Councilmember Whitting,
Aye.
Councilmember Dorr,
Nay.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor King,
Aye.
Mayor Castema.
Aye. Okay, Clerk, do you want to read that total just for the record?
Yes, I have five yes, 1 no, and Councilmember Adler was excused.
Okay, excellent. Okay, now let's move on to citizens' comments. Each citizen who is here this evening, I hope that if you wish to speak, you filled out one of these forms. If not, I will allow you to speak after I go through these forms. But we have instructions that the clerk will read. Councilmember Johnson, do you have a question?
You normally mention the consent agenda if you want to pull one off, so I was just going to queue up for that, but I'll wait till you ask, or I can include that now if you'd like.
We're on citizen comments
Oh,
first.
my apologies. I passed that. When you get to consent agenda, I guess I'll have a queue up on that. I'll give you a heads up on it. Thank you.
Okay, certainly. When we get there, we're in citizen comments. And could we have the clerk please read the guidelines?
This part of the meeting is for general citizen comments. Please reserve any public hearing testimony to that section of the agenda. The mayor will call on those who have provided their names in advance. Then the mayor will call for other citizens who wish to speak. For the record, please state your name and address or city council district in which you reside. Please direct your comments to the council as a whole, not individual council members. All comments are limited to 3 minutes. The clerk will provide verbal notice when only 30 seconds remain. As a reminder, this portion of the meeting is council's opportunity to hear from the community and not the time to engage in debate. Lastly, per state law, this public comment period cannot be used to speak in support of or in opposition to a ballot measure or individual candidacy, and no such comments will be allowed.
Okay, with that, everyone is given 3 minutes when they come forward. The first person I have is Kimberly. I don't have a last name, but I have Kimberly.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. And I just wanted to first say, I looked up, I'm a proud citizen of Puyallup for 8 years, and I have a major concern. I've read what your goals are here as council and other district members, that the fact that you reserve public safety on the highest level, on the highest marker, and also you value the lives of animals, either domestic, household pets, or wildlife. I have a problem down on 12th Avenue, 12th Street South where I live. It intersects with 13th Street Avenue. We are having major issues of people considering 12th Avenue a drag strip. They are hauling down the S-curves from Good Sam. I live behind Good Sam. They're blowing through that stop sign. They're hauling all the way down to 21st and vice versa. Cascade Christian School has now expanded their grades from K to 12. The city is fully aware of the increase of traffic. It's horrible. 2 animals have been struck. No brake lights were hit. It's been caught on 4 security cameras overlooking that street from 13th to 13th and 12th Avenue. There's a stop sign. There is no way anybody should be speeding. Unfortunately, my neighbor across the street lost their pet. It was caught on camera that this cat was ran over, and it was rolled over into their driveway, and thank goodness they were home, so they were able to spend the last few moments of this cat's life with them. It's horrible. A neighbor of mine was out jogging. She had to dive into a neighbor's yard because people are speeding down this street. It's nonstop. It's 24 hours a day. It's caught on security cameras of how fast these people are going. And I am respectfully begging you, 21st Avenue has those speed bumps. We are begging you as a community, and we will get petitions, whatever we need to do, to have you guys put these in down 12th, because it's a hazard. Somebody is going to lose their life. And the fact that because the 21st has them, we are respectfully asking, please put these in 12th, because it's going to help deter speeding and somebody possibly getting killed. And the worst part is there is a young boy that lives across the street from us that is mobility
30
disabled.
seconds.
He is in a wheelchair, and his mom and him almost got ran over by a speeder. So I know an animal is an animal, but a human life, what are you guys going to do about that when somebody gets killed on our street? So as a neighborhood, we are coming together, and if we need to sign a petition, we are happy to do that, but we're begging you, please, put these speed bumps in. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Let me just state this. There is a procedure we do follow for traffic calming. It does involve your neighborhood. I would need your last name just for contact, because I'm going to have staff contact you, and we're going to go through that whole process with you.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being here. And with that, the next person, John Hopkins.
John Hopkins, District 1, Mayor Casimir, members of the council, a few little things. On the fireworks, it might be interesting to see what a survey what the outcome of that would be. Anyway, just a thought. And regarding the parks, absolutely phenomenal, great leadership, and great staff. Well done, everyone on the parks. Now, a few observations. These are actually more like discoveries. 5 Mile Loop, at the very top of that, by Dead Man's Pond, is 23rd Avenue. And I was going along there the other day, and I noticed a lot of work going on. Sidewalk, excellent. I appreciate all the efforts of council to make things safer for the 5 Mile Loop. So 2 thumbs up for that one. Another discovery, Van Lierop Park. Obviously, there's been play equipment working on that for quite a while. No big deal, nothing unusual about that, except when I went by it the other day, I noticed that the tops of the play equipment, rather like you have behind you, there's tops on all the play equipment. These were images, these were built in a manner that reflects step by step. I mean, it's absolutely a brilliant design, in my opinion, because as you're coming along, you see the tops of the play equipment, the kind of roof type stuff, and then you look over to step by step, and it's kind of like a barn type design. And it's whoever did that design or encouraged it deserves 2 thumbs up on that one too. And finally, one last little one, Inter Avenue. I was going along there the other day too. And there are all these safety signs along there. And I look on the safety signs and I go, what's this notice? What's happening here? Got to look at this stuff, right? Out for bid, repaving. So excellent. We've certainly needed that for quite a while. So I appreciate the efforts in that regard too. Let's see. Next meeting, I'll talk a little about all along the Riverwalk. We're getting things really well organized on that. Looks like 100 vendors. It's going to be pretty cool. Anyway, that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else who would like to speak who is not signed up? Okay. With that, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull item 3A off, as I'd like some information on that before we finalize that as a line item.
Okay, so I propose we move that to 5. It would be 5D. Will now become put 3A at that point. Is that okay?
Mr. Mayor, however you'd like it. I would just like a briefing on it. So if you wanted to do it after we pass. Assuming we pass the consent agenda, we could deal with it right after that if you wanted to, but it's whatever you'd like.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what we will do. We will, I'll move it up a little bit to 4C, just so that we get it before the presentations, and that will become 3A. And if that's okay with you, let's go ahead now. Consent agenda, by the way, just so everyone who is viewing this, is an agenda where there is agreement by everyone prior to the meeting, and we make one vote for all of the issues unless a member decides they want further discussion, as you've just seen here. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as modified.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
excellent. Let's move on to number 4, resolutions. First one, 4A, is a resolution setting public hearings for the vacation of 2nd Street Southeast between East Meeker and East Main Street. And this is a requirement that we do have, and we have to pass this to, in fact, set up the public hearing. Ken Davies, Director of Public Works, if you could come forward. Councilmember Johnson, do you have a question regarding this?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a housekeeping. Council was grateful to pull 3A off. I just wanted to make sure that maybe staff could make sure that Cody's still here. I don't know. I can't see him. Just want to make sure I saw him had left. I want to make sure I didn't see him. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Go ahead, Ken.
Good evening, Mayor Costema and Council. Ken Davies, Public Works Director. Tonight we have a resolution to schedule a public hearing date of August 26, 2025 to vacate a portion of 2nd Street Southeast between East Meeker and East Main. This is 60 feet of right-of-way with a total length of approximately 240 feet, lying south of Main, north of Meeker Street. The Office of the City Engineer provided notices of the upcoming public hearing to the parcels within a 300-foot radius of 2nd Street. I can answer any additional questions you might have.
Okay, are there any questions? Councilmember Johnson, I assume your name's there from the prior?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it was, but I do have a question. Could I get some more information? Who is requesting this? Is it a city initiated, or is there a property owner? Give me an idea of what's the purpose of this.
So on January 27th of 2025, the city approved a development agreement with the Pavilion Properties Group. As part of that agreement, it includes the city's intention to vacate 2nd Street.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just wasn't putting the two and two together. You're talking about over here where the plaza is going to be. Thank you. I didn't hear the Pavilion with that, and I want to make sure what we're after. Thank you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, excellent. We're now going to move on to 4B, resolution updating the city's 2025 non-represented employee salary schedule. Katie Ortega, tell us what this is about.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Katie Ortega, Human Resources Director. I'm just here to introduce the resolution that we have tonight to update the 2025 non-represented salary schedule. This resolution updates just one single position's pay grade. This would be for the payroll specialist position, upgrading that pay grade from 38 to 42. We had done a salary survey in preparation to recruit again for this position and found that it was fully 13% off of just the average of our comparable cities. So we wanted to ensure that for this very important position that we were competitive in the market before we went out and advertised and began that recruitment. I don't have a presentation, but I can answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, with that, I'd like to entertain a resolution to update the city's 2025 non-represented employee salary schedule to reflect as Katie Ortega outlined. Is there such a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's now move on to what we're going to call 4C, which is 3A, and that has to deal with the accepting the Pioneer Pavilion Park lighting and acoustical upgrades as complete. Councilmember Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for humoring me on this. It's such an important part of our city civic downtown core to have the pavilion, and I know that we've approved, I think, this many months ago, maybe even over a year ago. But I'd love to get more specifics, because I know one of the things about the pavilion that we've heard over the years is kind of the echo chamber and other things. So can you tell me with this new acoustical upgrades and some of this lighting, can you just give us a little more briefing on, is there any improvement aesthetically, practically, all those things? And then I do have some further questions to improve this more if we haven't already got that in motion, but love a lot more detail on that.
Yeah, sure. Acoustical panels. There's 26 acoustical overhead panels that were installed at the pavilion, along with the upper walls are now have acoustical paneling across the upper walls. We've seen 100% improvement in the acoustics. So most of the events that have happened this year have all given us positive feedback on the acoustical improvements. The lighting bar is over the stage, and so the lights, the stage lights can change colors. There's a wall panel there with stage lighting. So I believe there's 7 overhead lights for the stage that have been installed, and pavilion staff can help operate those as well as create settings. So there's certain settings that are just standard settings that they can go to now. So the stage is well lit. This month we are going to replace the projector in the pavilion as well, and so we'll see a new projector, and we're also having that same AV group come in and make AV adjustments to the sound system and give us recommendations. And then LTAC also approved this year, and I think it's also on this agenda. We're opening back up the BCRA contract for design to look at LED panels that would be on both sides of the projector, so that way we don't get that washout during the day, and seeing what 2 screens would look like in the pavilion as well. So that'll be for next year, but that's what we're working with BCRA on for the next project.
Well, I'm so glad I had you brief us on that, because as we know, that it was like talking in a tin can, and it was really difficult to hear. And then the lighting on the stage was just dismal. You'd have people speaking up there, and it was just shadowy and dark. There was nothing there. And I'm glad to hear about the, you mentioned the PowerPoint screens, potential LED screens, whatever. That would be very nice, because a lot of times we have a bright sunny day and PowerPoint at its brightest is still pretty dim. So that would be very, very good to do. And then the last thing I would just kind of like to, one of the things I've noticed from a practical sense, and maybe it's been addressed, maybe it can be addressed, if not, but I can't tell you how many times people who are giving a PowerPoint presentation, you know, they're facing the audience and they have to turn around and click to see, because they can't see in front of them like a mirrored image. Is there, or can there be, will there be a mirrored screen so that the speaker doesn't need to turn their back to the audience to know when to get the right picture up there or the slide up there?
Yeah, with IT and Amit's help, we have a podium monitor now on the podium as well. So
right.
we are still working through some AV upgrades, and so if there's a better solution to that, but we do have a podium monitor now.
Great, yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, thank you for that update. You know, that facility continues to be used quite a bit. You know, for a lot of significant events, weddings and private parties and city, you know, kind of hosting for various regional meetings there, and to have that up and running, you know, just as top notch as possible, I think is really reflective of a well-run city. So thanks, Cody, thanks, Council, for letting me ask questions. So with that in mind, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda formally as 3A now, I think posted as 4C. Is that correct, Mayor?
Correct.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve that as stated, accept that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we do have discussion. Councilmember Dorr.
Thank you. Cody, I just wanted to clarify what I thought I heard you say. So is the sound system already addressed, or did you say that they are coming back in? I felt like
the acoustic panels and lighting system is what we're closing out tonight on the agenda, and then we also have Avidex, our audiovisual vendor, coming in to do some upgrades to the sound system itself and get that dialed in and add a new higher lumen laser projector that will get better daytime light. And then also on this agenda, BCRA is going to be doing some design work for potentially adding LED screens.
Okay, so when you said sound system, that's what I was just trying to make sure that I was understanding that. So I really appreciate this effort. I know that we've been working on this for years. I'm super glad to hear you say that it's 100% better, because it has been pretty discouraging when we've had events, and especially very serious events where we have our ceremonies, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, things like that, and you can't hear the speakers. So I'm super grateful for your efforts in getting this taken care of, putting it through LTAC, and I'm really excited to have. We have a great facility, but it's only great if people can hear each other speak or the presenters. So thank you very much for your efforts on this.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Dorr. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cody, just wanted to say thank you for taking the helm on this and getting all of these upgrades done. It's been something that has been much needed since the birth of the Pavilion. It was a great building, and actually 19 years ago today, I got married there to my wife. Wow. And so that's why I'm not at council tonight, full disclosure. But that's where I got married, right outside on the patio, and then we had the reception inside, and I can attest it was decent, and I'm glad to hear that 19 years later we're able to fully upgrade that interior and get it sound ready, and the lights are huge, and I appreciate the podium monitor as well that was mentioned, and all the other upgrades that you'll be bringing along as well. So thank you for taking that on and getting that taken care of.
Thank you. And by the way, thank you, Deputy Mayor King. Congratulations, your anniversary. If there was some sort of song, we'd all sing it for you right now. We don't want us to do that.
I'm going to Red Robin later, so you can... No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Let's see. Are there any further questions that we have of Cody? If not, then we'll go ahead and have a vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, that passes. Now we're going to, thank you, Cody, for that. We're now going to move on to number 5, consideration and request. We have individuals here this evening from the Department of Transportation, John White, Program Administrator with the Department of Transportation. He'll give us a presentation on 5A, which is SR 167. That's this big freeway that has been dead-ended in the Meridian now for, I don't know how many years, 30, 40 years. They're going to actually discuss, and it's no longer fictional. This is really going to happen by 2029, and I hope that's what I hear this evening, that we're going to have the continuation of 167. And so we need this briefing this evening. So with that, John, please proceed.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you for having us tonight. My name is John White. I'm the program administrator for the Puget Sound Gateway Program. With me tonight are Tom Slimak, our construction manager for the completion of 167, and Steve Fox, our project manager for the completion of 167. And Mayor, as you noted, you cannot miss the construction going on. So we are well on our way, and that's what we're here to talk about, as well as all the great collaboration we've had here with your city staff and Public Works and others on a variety of elements of completing 167. So talk a little bit about the program, and then we're going to talk about our different construction projects here. And then lastly, we're going to talk about our last project to complete the 167 Expressway here, which we're poised to award here any day now. So a little bit about where we're at with Gateway. I'll focus on 167. 509 is all under construction, so it's all underway. We just opened up the first mile of new 509 Expressway this past Saturday. So if you need some evidence on our ability to complete these and keep things moving, that's the first out of 3+ decades of planning. We've opened up a segment of new expressway. So, and we're well under our way on 167. So when it comes to 167, the project here in the middle referred to as Stage 1B, Tom's going to be speaking to that one. That builds the western 2 miles of expressway from I-5 over to the Port of Tacoma. And downtown Tacoma, that is poised to open up next fall of 2026. And lastly, we've got the Stage 2 projects, one here on the doorstep of, right off of Meridian here, and doorstep of the City Hall, where we're rebuilding the Meridian interchange and building improvements up towards 410 on existing 167, which will make the way for the last project, Stage 2B, which builds from roughly the Puyallup Rec Center back out to the I-5 connection, heading over to the west. So in that one, we're about to award that one, and we plan on having that last one in construction by next year. So look, just briefly, an update on the funding. The legislature gave us some assistance here this past session. The construction market's been quite challenging, and we've been trying to keep up with it and ensure that we're fully funded to complete Gateway. The legislature provided us some assistance. Notably, they provide a bump up in the state funding, as well as a bump up in the toll funding. So between those two, we sit with those adjustments, we sit at $2.83 billion. Notably, we had a unprecedented challenge from the legislature to come up with $130 million of local contributions for 18 of our local partners. Puyallup very much at the forefront of that, along with the ports and some of our other major cities. And we not only met that challenge, but we exceeded it through some really exceptional grant partnerships. So thank you for the city for the assistance there, and we not only met the goal, but we beat it. I'm going to talk a little bit about tolling, because with completing these expressways, we're heading towards tolling. We've been talking about tolling in these two corridors for the last 15 years. And now we are creeping ever so close to the reality of it, and we want to make sure people understand, the framework for how that's going to work. And there's a lot of effort to get out to the communities and users and make sure they're well informed. Briefly, in the 509 corridor, we have one toll point There's 3 miles of new expressway on 509. It's important to note here, big picture-wise, the only parts that are tolled are the new constructed expressways that complete the missing links. Any existing sections of the freeways remain untolled, and one of the messages we make sure people understand is all the routes that people use today for free, they're still available to them in the future. We're providing a new opportunity with a new, more reliable connection by completing these missing links for the people who will gain value out of that reliable and travel time savings that comes with that. In the 167 corridor, we have one toll point west of I-5 in that western segment, and we have one toll point east of I-5 between I-5 and Valley Avenue in the city of Fife. You'll see some of the opening dates there. Tolling goes live in the 509 corridor in the first segment here in October, and in the 167 corridor for that first segment, it's expected late next year, and then 509 and 167 will be completed in 2028 and 2029 respectively, which then you'll have the full corridors opened up with the full tolling benefits. The Washington State Transportation Commission is the responsible authority within the state of Washington for setting toll rates and policy. Us as a gateway program and the WashDOT Toll Division have been working collaboratively with the Washington State Transportation Commission for the past year in a rate setting process. The rates that you see presented here went through a final public hearing just a couple of weeks ago on June 17th. There was actually no public comment on that last hearing through the extensive engagement that had happened before that. Notably here for 167, the way tolling will work is very similar to if you've traveled the SR-99 tunnel or the 520 floating bridge. It varies by time of day, so you have a set rate where depending on what time of day you're traveling, you know what the toll is going to be. It's not dynamic. It doesn't vary like some of the ones on 405. So at the off-peak times, you'll have on the western segment of 167, that piece from I-5 over to the port, that's actually got a $1 flat rate toll. It's a very short segment, so it's a $1 flat rate toll. And then on the eastern segments of 167, it varies from $1.20 at the off-peak to a maximum of $3 at the peak commute periods. The commission adopted toll escalation starting in 2031. I think that comes with lessons learned in other tolled corridors, Tacoma Narrows, 520, 99, and trying to keep toll rates in pace with the basics of general inflation.
Excuse me, John.
Yeah.
I have a question from Councilman
sure.
Whitting. I allow questions as you go along. I try to find a nice spot
That's fine.
to intervene,
Please.
only because sometimes they're very relevant to the slide that is there. Councilmember Whitting, please.
I just wanted to inquire how that tolling is going to take place. Is that going to roll into the Good to Go program?
Yes, it will. These are photo tolling. It's good to go. The people paying the toll, you pay the lowest rate with a good to go pass and with a tag or a transponder. There's also the mail-in options, and you can have the online account with your license plate read, but not with a transponder. But I think the lowest rate's always going to be having that tag or transponder. What happens here ahead of going live with tolling is there's a significant marketing and outreach effort led by the Toll Division in partnership with us. Right now in 509, the Toll Division is offering up free transponders for a certain number of kind of first come, first serve individuals. They've got advertisements out there on TV, radio, social media extensively, working with our local community partners, getting it up on people's websites so that people understand what your best options are to pay the lowest toll.
Thank you.
Go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, and please interject at any time. A couple other just details here. For trucks, multi-axle vehicles, more than 2 axles, the commission adopted the policy that exists for all of the other tolled corridors where multi-axle vehicles pay with what's called an axle multiplier. trucks and heavy vehicles, heavy freight, they take a larger toll on the highways, and that's the rationale I think that the commission has used to have a higher toll rate. As a reminder, tolling both pays for the capital bonds that help build the projects that I showed on the slide before, but tolling also provides a sustainable revenue source to ensure that these tolled corridors are maintained in a state of good repair at all times. Unlike the rest of our state highways that sometimes we're challenged because there's more need and not enough funding. So that's an advantage of tolling as well. Lastly here, and this is notable, the legislature in concert with the commission adopted for the first time, this is in the decades of modern tolling within Washington, adopted a low-income program approach. The gateway corridors are going to be the initial corridors where this is adopted. And the intention is it will go into effect with the opening of the first segment of 167. And we've got some work to do next year, working with the Toll Division and the Commission to do the traffic and revenue analysis and financial analysis that goes with implementing a low-income program. But that's kind of a watershed moment for the Commission and the state, in that people who qualify as low-income will be able to then get a discounted rate for their tolls in these gateway corridors.
Councilmember Winning.
I really appreciate that low-income provision, and I certainly want my constituents to have a good shot at getting one of your free transponders. So I trust you'll let us know when that's happening so we can inform our constituents.
There'll be a very extensive outreach effort that comes with it, both ourselves and in partnership with the Toll Division. So we'll be out talking to all of our partners, getting out to the communities, and I'll speak a little bit to that later, some of the things that happen. But there's a whole marketing and public education effort that comes with opening up a new tolled corridor.
Okay, Councilmember Dorr.
Yep.
Thank you. So taking on to Councilmember Whitting's comments, so I want to understand, and I know you don't have it all fleshed out, but so if transponders are the least expensive way to have these toll, to pay a toll, but then we have the low, and they're limited. Now we have low income discount. It would make sense to me that the low income folks should be the ones that are eligible for those transponders. How is that going to work?
So I'll be careful here. I can't speak for the Washington State Transportation Commission. They own the policy decisions, and there will be a public process. I mean, I think that's important here to mention. There'll be a public process related to implementing the low-income approach. The commission holds public hearings. Cities, partners, community members have the ability to provide public comment and provide input to that process. What I would expect is, as the commission works to set what the policy will be for somebody qualifying, that might be something that the commission might take up, is will there be a discount or maybe free tags or transponders? In partnership with WashDOT, that might be something that could be considered as part of that process. Would there be a way to help make sure that qualified low-income users can get that lowest rate toll rather than pay the additional administrative fees? So I think that's a great comment, and I think we have to wait for the public process but I'm sure that will come up.
Okay.
So,
go ahead.
Thank you. So just a couple more items. One is the tolls. I've had lots of comments and feedback. This was a bipartisan effort. This was not one party or the other, is my understanding. And I know that at the time, our local champion of this was I think he was representative at the time, Hans Zeiger. But this is not a partisan. The tolling was a bipartisan issue, correct?
That is correct. The toll authorization for Gateway was very much a bipartisan vote. It takes a supermajority of the legislature to approve tolling. It takes a 60% vote. So there really is, it was truly a bipartisan effort to approve tolling for Gateway.
Thank you. And just for the public's information, Councilmember Swanson and I served on the local match committee, and Puyallup's contribution to that was $2 million. So I just wanted to highlight that for the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dorr. Councilmember Gilliam.
Thank you, Mayor Castava. Just a quick question, more I guess for my own sanity and clarity. We have 2 tolls going in. I'm guessing one is going eastbound and the other is going westbound. It's not 2 tolls per side, correct?
That's correct, and maybe I can provide a little additional clarification. That would probably be helpful. Basically, you see that range of $1.20 to $3, and what happens is it flips during the time of day. The peak periods, and when you pay that peak toll, will flip based on the characteristics of the commute. So, during when you're in the peak period and it's one direction, right? You're paying the higher toll in that direction, but not in the lower demand direction, if that makes sense. So again, you're not paying 2 tolls, right? The toll rate's going to be you're going to pay 1 toll for your trip. If that maybe that's actually clarifying better what you're.
Yeah, I was just thinking about using the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, and headed north there's no toll, but headed south there is.
There's tolls in both directions. You're paying a toll here. So it just depends on what your trip is.
Yes, but one toll is going eastbound, and then if you come around and going westbound, it's another price. So you're not getting dinged on the same road in the same direction twice. It's
no, you're not.
Going this direction, and then when you return, it's a different toll.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's correct. Sorry if that was confusing.
Okay, go ahead and proceed.
So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tom Slimak, who's going to provide an update on our construction progress.
Thank you, John. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you so much for having us here today. Again, my name is Tom Slimak. I'm the construction project engineer for all the construction that's happened here on 167, and this is exciting times for us. We are building virtually at both ends of our corridors, and I'll give you some updates on that. So this first slide here I like to call our line diagram exhibit. Kind of just shows the extents of everything 167 completion that we have here in North Pierce County. So orientation on the map here on the left-hand side, that's the Port of Tacoma. On the far left-hand side there, you can see a bit of the port. And then on the right-hand side, you see the far eastern extents here in Puyallup of 167. So our Stage 1B project, I'll talk more about that, but that's the blue, that we are well under construction on that. And as John said, we've got about one more season to go before we hit our substantial completion, which is next fall for that. So that builds a new expressway from I-5 over to the port. And we just started up, as we noted here at the onset, over in Puyallup. So that's the magenta, the Stage 2A there in the exhibit, which essentially rebuilds the Meridian interchange, getting ready to connect and extend 167 to the west, as well as our improvements there on the exhibit from Meridian up to 410. So that project, we just started construction. Our substantial completion target for that is in the fall of 2027. Okay, staying with our Stage 1B project, so the blue that we saw in that previous exhibit, this picture is of our improvements right near the Port of Tacoma. So this is right near Alexander Avenue and showing some of the improvements that we have been making out there on SR 509. So we're building there a new bridge that's going to carry 167 if you're coming from Puyallup over I-5 heading towards the port. This would take you into down to Alexander Avenue, an opportunity to get into the Port of Tacoma. So this is a multi-span bridge. The span that you see there is the first span that we constructed. We actually have the brand new pavement that you see there is actually northbound that has been shifted over, which makes space that we can complete the next span. So we're working on that and looking to complete that here this summer. And we have a big goal to complete all of our bridges by the end of this year or the first part of this next year. 167, the blue Stage 1B, is a little deceiving. There's some 20 bridges that we are building or existing ones that we're making modifications to. Mixture between roadway crossings and water crossings that we are constructing. Moving further towards the east, it is our biggest bridge on this Stage 1B, our new diverging diamond interchange construction there at I-5. So right there in the middle of the graphic, that's the Fife curve, as we've come to call it. Right next to that, you see a new roadway that's built. That was our Stage 1A project, where we replaced the old 70th Avenue Bridge in the city of Fife, and that is now Wapata Way East. And we did that first project to make way for the new diverging diamond interchange. So in the fall here in 2024, we set the second longest precast girders in the world over I-5. Little deceiving in this image, those girders are about 223 feet long. There's 15 of them that make up that superstructure, as we call it. Each one of them weighs, around 270,000 pounds. We are very fortunate. These were cast and fabricated in concrete tech, so just up in the port, and we did these with some of the biggest cranes on the West Coast to set those. So we did those under full closures, and we're now building that superstructure through the winter and spring here and into summer. We're basically continuing to build the diverging diamond interchange there. The ramps that are going to connect to that. This image is just a touch old, a month old. It says May of 25. We've actually built the ramps, what I call to and from the south. So to the left of this image, new bridges that go over that roadway, Wapata Way East. So this is continuing to take shape. We'll continue to build out through this summer, this new interchange here, getting ready to open up, as I mentioned, this next fall. And then we have a lot of mainline paving that we're going to be doing. So all that new expressway, getting our paving done on the new expressway, as well as a little bit there on I-5. Okay, really awesome piece of 167, and Stage 1B has a big portion of this, is what we call our Halibos Repair and Restoration Program, so the RRP. And what this is, it's a multifaceted stormwater management approach for the project. The shaded areas that you see there, the multicolored in the center of this graphic, is all the individual areas. And what it is basically wetland and stream enhancement of the existing Halibos and its tributaries in this area. So those geometric shapes that you see there, that totals about 150 acres of wetland and stream enhancement. We are upgrading about a little over 20,000 linear feet of existing and new stream channel in this area. And you might ask, well, why are we doing that? And there's multiple reasons why and benefits. One of them is the habitat uplift that we're creating. As I mentioned there, all of the wetland creation and creek channel. Just the built environment through the times, the generations, has pushed creek channels where, well, maybe not ideal. And so we're looking to restore that. So big uplift in the habitat creation in this corridor and restoring that. In order to do that, we've got some 400,000 plants that we've got to install that are native to this area for that habitat. So a big uplift in that regard. Another aspect of this is it has a benefit to the area flooding in this part of the corridor. Historically, we have seen, and many of you have probably experienced, when we get large flooding events, local street network can flood, I-5 can flood. We've had to shut down lanes because of that flooding on I-5. This helps to keep flooding where it should be and engage these habitat areas, keeping it from getting onto our roadways. And we actually lower, in the greater part of this area, these geometric shapes that you see here, we lower the base flood elevation by about 2 feet. So there's a big uplift and a benefit on the flooding side. And as well, the last benefit here is the stormwater. It actually handles our stormwater for this project. So instead of all those conventional ponds that you typically see on projects, we don't have those on this project. We have shown that these improvements can actually handle that. So it's a big win-win-win on that. So this map here just shows this work continuing. We've got a bunch there next to I-5 that you can see that we're building, and we have another season here this next year to finish this portion out. There's a bunch more that's going to happen also in the Stage 2B project as well. So we've got repair and restoration happening throughout the corridor. Okay, zooming out to the east end. Hey, out here in Puyallup, we're finally out here doing the east end of 167, and I'll touch on these improvements here. So what we have there at the center of the graphic is a rendering of what it's eventually going to look like, and that'll be a diverging diamond interchange to accept 167 where it currently terminates, as everybody knows, right there where the steel truss bridge is sitting. And then to the left of the graphic is where we're going to continue 167 Expressway, connecting over to the blue that we saw that I just talked about. So in this project, not as many bridges, a couple of bridges that we have to build. One main one is right in the center of that graphic there, that gray rectangle, which is a new bridge over Meridian, where 167 will eventually go over the top. And Meridian and the DDI will see those improvements underneath. We also are widening 167 to the median. So existing 167, there's lots of median space in between. We're basically going to widen to the inside, and that's going to become the main line of 167. And that necessitates us building a new bridge over Milwaukee, and we'll be doing that as part of this project as well. So as I mentioned, the widening and building the new expressway, widening toward the median, lots of trail improvements on all of the projects of 167. This project in particular, we have constructing from the Puyallup Rec Center, the Puyallup Trail. So from the Puyallup Rec Center down here to Meridian, connecting to the River Walk Trail. And as each segment actually has been constructed, segments of trail have been opened. Stage 1A, we did that. Stage 1B, we will do that. Stage 2A will follow in that suit. And finally, Stage 2B to complete all of the trail improvements. And I'll pause there for a second. I see a hand.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Dorr has a question.
Thank you. Josh, I appreciate the presentation, and I know that the council has had a discussion. We went from a SPUI to this DDI. I've received some feedback, and I've seen a lot of it on social media where people are a little bit shocked with this, and the comments are, this looks like a death trap. And I'm just wondering, my question is, this is a new thing, and it's completely different to Puyallup. Is there going to be any more outreach or public education on what this configuration is? Because the graphic does not entirely tell the picture. I can see why people are concerned about how am I supposed to navigate this. So I'm just wondering, as we move forward, are we going to have any other messaging out to the public?
We do, council member, and I've actually got a slide. I'll talk more about that. We hear you, and we recognize that, and we have a commitment to help educate the public and various medias of how we're going to do that. And so I do have a slide. I'll touch on that here in a minute of how we're going to do that. We propose to do that because we do recognize this is a newer interchange type, not brand new. It's across the country being employed, but it's new to this area. So we've recognized this, and we do have a communication campaign outlined of how we're going to inform the public before we get there and just open this up.
Thank you.
Councilmember, go ahead.
Nope, yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Whitting. Councilmember Dorr, were you done? Okay, Councilmember Whitting.
I just wanted to respond a little bit to Councilmember Dorr's concerns. I had heard about this at one of your earlier presentations, and I've been driving several times of late, and I have zipped through some intersections, and I say, I'm driving on the wrong side of the road here, and I zipped right through. It was very intuitive, and I didn't have any problem. I looked in the rearview mirror and I said, that was a diverging diamond intersection.
Yep.
So I'm a big supporter of it. It worked really well. Less congestion, less stops getting through the intersections, and it really was very intuitive. So I went through on my first time and I didn't hit anybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilman. And we recognize it, and this does have efficiencies, right? We just don't we go through a pretty robust process on picking interchange types. We just don't, kind of pull it out of a bag. We do a very thorough analysis and pick the right solution in the right context. And this has efficiencies on minimizes the chance of collision. There's less conflict points in this type of interchange configuration. Better efficiency going through, as you mentioned, council member, less stops in certain movements. So there's efficiencies with this type of interchange. And I think there might be one more question.
There is. Councilmember Johnson.
Sorry, I apologize.
Councilmember Johnson, please.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Tom, I see the full interchange on Meridian, and I remember, I think it was with you either online or maybe other briefings over the past years or so. There was some discussion, and I'm hoping maybe it's going to come up in the presentation. Maybe you've already covered it and I missed it somehow, which I don't think that I have. But if I recall right, there was also another interchange that I think was farther north that was going to be put into. Is that still in the works, or has that been eliminated, or where are we at on that?
So touching on the interchanges, so 167 as a whole, completion, we have 5 interchanges. So starting on the west, we have the SR 509 connection. That the bridges that you have that you see there.
Yeah, but I'm talking specifically for Puyallup now. I just want to know about the 2 of Puyallup. I don't want to know about the other one.
This is the one in Puyallup, and then
there was one up in Puyallup farther toward the north, if I recall right, a partial interchange.
Oh, Highway 18, is that?
No.
No.
Colleagues, I recall hearing of another potential interchange in Puyallup farther up north.
Isn't there just another exit between here and Fife? Is there not an exit at like Freeman Road thereabouts?
There's going to be an interchange at Valley Avenue, and that's in the city of Fife is where that one would reside. So that's one of the 5 interchanges that'll be constructed. And Steve Fox will touch on our 2B improvements. That's when that one will be constructed as part of 2B. So just one interchange.
And it's not a full interchange, but a partial. So that's the one I was referring to, and I knew it was in the proximity. I didn't know if it was in Puyallup, but I knew it was in proximity. I just want to make sure that was still in the works, because there was some discussion on possibly weeding that out, and I wanted to clarify, is it still in the picture? Because that would be very helpful, I think, on there.
It is in the picture, and we will be building that interchange. Yep, as part of 167.
Thank you for that clarity. Thank you, colleagues.
Okay, Councilmember Dorr.
Thank you. I just want to clarify. I am not concerned with the DDI. I'm reporting my the feedback I've received and what I have seen. So my hope is that we can just demystify or alleviate the community's concerns about this, because I recognize they are only looking at a diagram. So I appreciate that you are going to do further education, but it's not that I have any concerns about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just familiarize those people who may be viewing this that Puyallup had an option on this intersection. There is a new intersection that's out there called the Diverging Diamond. And if you want to see the best example of that, go to Lacey off I-5. That is where you're actually going to be driving on the wrong side of the road, okay? Well, it won't be the wrong side in this particular case. But in every other case in the United States, it would be like you're driving in England or something like that. Now, I will say that this council was extremely skeptical and, in fact, wanted to insist that we stick with convention and not do this on some sort of a regret that may occur 20, 30 years from now when people say, oh, my God, what did we do with the Diverging Diamond? So we asked for hard evidence that this would be a safer intersection and more efficient intersection. And we received data that did, in fact, say it lowered the potential conflict points and lowered accidents that could occur. And I think when it comes down to the safety issue, that more than anything, the number of collisions, because I, for God's sake, don't want our citizens injured in this whole exchange, that in fact this is shown to be safer than the conventional one, and we made a decision to go forward with it. But I will say it's going to take some getting used to. I've talked to people in our community who say the whole idea of driving on the wrong side is going to take some getting used to. And all I can say is go down I-5, go to Lacey, take that exit. It is odd, but as Councilmember Whitting just said, that, you know, after he did it, he got used to it. It will take you some time to do that. So with that, please proceed.
Thank you. Couple last bullet points on this slide. So part of this contract, the old Puyallup River Bridge that's sitting out there, so the steel bridge that you see just on the other side of this interchange on the exhibit, that's going to be demolished as part of this contract, and we could be starting that as early as this next week, working with our contractor on their demolition plans, but vast majority of that structure will be demolished. However, a portion of it is going to be salvaged, and it will be placed along the trail improvements right near Meridian is where it's going to go as a historical marker of that old historic bridge, what it was to the community. So a piece of that will be retained here as part of this. And then we also have some local improvements on Stewart of the intersection here, just down the road, that we'll be making as part of this project. Some channelization improvements to improve movements at that intersection. Quick point I do want to make, just a distinction. This illustration does show the full diverging diamond interchange built out. But the note there I do want to point out, on the left you see closed to traffic until the next stage. So that part just to the left of the interchange won't be opened yet until we complete the stage 2B project. We'll build it, get it ready for that next stage, but it won't be open to traffic until we build 2B and get that open in the 2029 timeframe. Okay, some of the improvements that we are doing. So this image here, just a couple of months old, and boy, it's even changed since then. So this is, you see the steel truss bridge there. This is looking west towards the port, towards the rec center, where we have a lot of our work happening. So our contractor right now has installed project signs. You've seen some of those up likely. Our silt fencing to prevent any discharges. You see we've done tree removing. Our mass excavation that you see there is all happening. Our contractor's goal is to build the majority of the new expressway from Meridian west over to the Puyallup Rec Center here this year. So lots of work happening on that west end to get that built out. That does include some of the trail improvements that we're looking to make here as part of this project. The last bullet point here that I do want to touch on is, in order for us to build the bridge over in that new diverging diamond, we have to do something with traffic to keep traffic moving. And what our contractor is developed is a temporary alignment, or a shoe fly as we call it, where we'll take all lanes of Meridian and we'll basically shift to the east. So if you will, it's a little curve in the roadway, if you will, essentially between the river and Valley Avenue. That's to keep traffic flowing. And while we shift to the east with traffic, that allows a work zone to be created for that new bridge and that interchange to get constructed. So you'll see that work happening, of that temporary constructed roadway happening here this summer. Our goal is hopefully to shift before the Puyallup Fair. If that doesn't happen, we won't shift traffic until after. So we are very mindful of that. Our contractor has a lot of work to do, but we are making progress on that. Okay, the outreach that we discussed earlier here, just want to touch on this. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we don't skip over something that was relevant to the last point. Councilmember Whitting.
I just had a question. You say you're working on that section that's just to the west of Meridian, but in the previous slide you said that section of highway isn't going to be open till 2029. So we're finishing in 2025. What won't be open till 2029? Is that? Am I understanding that right?
Exactly. Our contractor has decided how they're going to actually build this portion of 167 in stages, in pieces. They've elected to work from the west towards the east. In part, there's no, at this part of the corridor, there's really no traffic that we have to worry about. It's basically greenfield. So I can see why they wanted to tackle this portion first. Another aspect is through time, 167, we have stockpiled soil from other projects in the area. 167 as a whole, we need millions of cubic yards of soil to build the new expressway. It's elevated, right? So it takes a lot of soil to do that. Through time, we have stockpiled soil. This was one location in the corridor where we had some, and the contractor wants to jump on that and start using that, spreading that material out. And that's what you basically see in this exhibit. So we'll build this portion, and it's going to take us a few construction seasons before we're done and open this up in the fall of 27.
Okay, go ahead, proceed.
Okay. Okay, on our outreach, hearing that, and we've recognized we need to be doing outreach for our new interchange here, and we have a kind of multifaceted approach of how we're going to do this. So tailored tools to different learning styles, visual, interactive, verbal. The image that you see here is just a snippet of some of the graphics we're looking to put together to help educate drivers and motors that may navigate this through the diverging diamond interchange. Down at the bottom, we do have an online open house that's currently open, and it's open through August. And there's a host of exhibits actually out there of pathways, exhibits similar to this, to help inform the public on what the diverging diamond is going to look like and how to navigate it. But we're just scratching the surface. We are going to continue building these tools and getting out in the community in various modes here. Like I said, visual, interactive, verbal, to help educate folks. We also what we're calling messaging by milestone. So focusing on the messaging that best prepares drivers to put information into action. So not waiting to the end and then all of a sudden, oh, here it is. Here's how you're going to drive this. No, we're going to educate folks so that they know before they actually have to do it. So they're informed before they get there. And syncing up those milestones. So one of those that I talked about, for example, is when we open this, the full interchange isn't going to be open yet. So helping educate the public what that's going to look like when we open 2A, and then when we open 2B, how is it going to change? So we are focused on this, and we have a communication team that is helping putting this together. Here this past month, we were here at Meeker Days, as we always join fairs and festivals throughout the summer season. And this is what we do. We bring boards and graphics to the community as we advance through the construction to help inform folks about how we're progressing with our construction, what to expect next, and some of these nuances of how to operate some of these through these facilities. So with that, if there's any questions on that, I will transition to Steve Fox, our 167 project manager, to talk about 2B. But I'll pause.
Councilmember Gilliam.
I think this is more directed to city staff. This is Dan being the city clerk, or whoever, maybe Eric. If we could get the website on our city website so that our constituents can just click the link and check out the modules. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. That's all I had. And Steve Fox is next. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. First, time check. How are we doing?
We're doing just great.
Okay. I want to make sure. Yeah, we want to now talk about stage 2B. So you've been hearing about stage 1B on the west end. Stage 2A, you're starting to see it. So the last project is stage 2B, and that'll build that middle portion green on the graphic. And so where we're at in the process is we have selected Kramer Scarcella joint venture as our highest scoring proposer, and we are on the verge of awarding that contract. And we expect to execute that contract here later in July. And then we will move forward into what we call phase 1. And phase 1 will last between July and January of 2026. And what we'll be doing during that period is what we call kind of design validation, where they're going to take a really close look at our current design and offer any suggestions or improvements. And then we're going to take a real hard look at the risks associated with the project. And at the conclusion of that effort, we're going to be doing what's called open book pricing, where they will be submitting prices to us. We have independent price evaluators that will be looking at that. And at the end of the process, the goal, of course, is to agree upon a price of an informed price, whereas this project, we did not use traditional design build where we're asking for a price up front, and they have to bid a whole bunch of risks and uncertainties into that. In this case, they will have 6 months to really learn the project from us. And so when it comes to the end of this year, they will have a really good understanding, be able to put together a really secure price that we can agree upon and move forward. So that's what we call phase 2. And then it's traditional design build, just like we've done on our other projects. So it's a little bit different contracting mechanism. It's going well. We've got a really good design builder that has a lot of experience with this. They've done, this will be their 40th project where they've done this type of delivery method. So we're really excited to work with them on this process. I did want to address your question, Councilmember Whitting. You asked a question earlier about why building that portion to the west and so forth. We broke the projects into 2A and 2B, and we decided to make the line in the sand, if you will, at the rec center, so that we could open up a segment of trail from the Riverwalk to the rec center and have that functional. And because there was no traffic on that, that was the logical point for us to break the project between 2A and 2B. So this contractor that is building 2A, Atkinson, will build all of those improvements, but traffic will not get onto that until we finish 2B. So that, I hope that answers your question that you had earlier.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And are there any questions to me about stage 2B? Okay. Next slide, John. Would you like to talk about the trail?
Just got a little bit here left, and we'll wrap this up. So, as I think was noted early on by Ken, we've been working for a number of years now here on a regional partnership to evaluate ways to complete this large missing link in the Tahoma to Tacoma trail system from Puyallup and Riverwalk Trail, connecting into the interurban trail in Fife, and then connecting over to downtown Tacoma and the trail system that goes out to Point Defiance. With the partnership of Puyallup along with Fife and Tacoma, and some championship from House Chair Fye. We've received the funding, as well as Fife has received a piece of funding, and Tacoma's received a piece of funding to realize completing that 12-mile segment of missing link trail. It will be a huge benefit in the end because it will open up hundreds of miles of additional regional trail connectivity when you finish this missing link piece. That said, this is hard work. We've been working for months now, with Puyallup and our other partners on probably for WashDOT, it's the first time we've ever done something quite like this, of coming up with a really in-depth plan for how we're going to, in partnership, manage this trail once it opens. WashDOT doesn't have a lot of regional trails in our right-of-way. We have regional trails that kind of cross over little pieces of our right-of-way here and there. Nothing quite like this that exists within WashDOT's highway system. So this has been a bit precedent-setting. We've got great work going on, great momentum with the partnership. We have a meeting tomorrow with some of our elected representatives and senior staff, trying to kind of work through some of the final direction setting so that we can continue to kind of really see through the final design of this trail, keep it on schedule, and then what you'll see happening over the next couple of years is our ongoing work with our three local partners to kind of really work through a strategy for how we're going to, and some agreements and things on how we're going to all work together to manage this trail so it's safe and clean and secure for users, since this is going to be a kind of a 24/7 trail segment. So a lot of great work and still a lot of work left to go, but really good progress being made. As I think Tom mentioned, we were at Meeker Days recently. Every summer we get out into our local communities and our partner communities, meet people where they're at, answer questions, provide information, make sure people are as well informed as we can be, and provide them links and contact information to further details that they might be interested in. You can see some of the other locations that we're going to be out at here this summer in Edgewood and Milton and Fife. And we will continue this work getting out into the communities throughout the completion of the project. I want to mention this project. This is not a gateway project, so I can't take any hard questions on it, but this is a peripheral project to Gateway in the existing 167 corridor, where they're upgrading the toll system to be consistent with what we're doing on Gateway and what you see on 405 and other toll corridors, where you have the photo tolling equipment so that people can have good to go passes, transponders, tags, and you have the most modern technology for toll management. This is replacing the old initial toll system that was put into place and is outdated. It was put in place in 2008, as you can see there. So this will bring up the system to be aligned with all of our other tolled corridors. That work's underway. If you drive the 167 corridor, you can certainly see it. I think they're projecting being complete here sometime later this year, and as you can see, it says as early as fall of 2025. That's being managed under the 405-167 mega program, which is a peer program to Gateway. So lastly, wrap this up. In terms of next steps, where we're headed, lots of construction this season, next season, all the way through completion. We've got a lot of momentum, and our plan is to keep that going. We've got the trail maintenance and discussions that will be an ongoing thing over the next couple of years until ahead of opening up these first segments of trail, as has been discussed here tonight, with the full trail going into effect here in late 2029. At least from Puyallup over to Tacoma. And then we've got the Stage 2B contract that will be in construction by next year. And then we've got our ongoing work here that we're working with city staff on in terms of our interagency and interlocal agreement, interagency agreements for Stage 2B of 167. Steve, did you want to come up and?
Yeah, I can just very quickly, I'll give a couple of just highlights with regards to that interagency agreement. We call it interlocal agreement. You've seen one before that we have one in place for Stage 2A. We'll have another similar one for Stage 2B. And so just a couple of things to think about for Stage 2B. We will have a State Patrol inspection station that's going to be built that will be for trucks coming out of the port area headed northbound or eastbound. So that facility will be hooking up to city utilities as part of the Stage 2B project. Freeman Road, we got quite a bit of work on Freeman Road. Our design had a realignment of Freeman Road, and if we to the east towards Puyallup, and if our design builder sticks with that design, that will ultimately lead to some adjustments in the corporate city limits between Fife and Puyallup. We'll wait and see what the design builder, if they stick with our design or they keep it where it is. Let's see. So a couple other things there. River Road. When we open up 167 2B, the entire corridor is open up to traffic. So the signing right now all around is that you take River Road. That's 167, right? So our plan would be to sign that as SR 167 Alt. We have other locations around the state that are like that. So it would be an alternate route. 167 River Road would be mainline 167. Of course, if you're coming south out of Auburn area and you stay on the facility, you're going to stay on 167 all the way over to 509 near the port. So just for semantics, for you guys to understand that that's our plan. That's how we will do that. And of course, there's discussions about turn back of River Road ultimately to locals. That's still in the works. But in the meantime, we've got to take care of River Road. And I think those are the main highlights I wanted to cover. So anyhow, just if there's any questions as with the interlocal agreement or whatever, we can certainly work through that with staff. So thank you.
Okay, with that, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to refresh my memory with my colleagues. I do recall a discussion on the once the 167 was completed that the River Road would be turned back to a road to the municipalities. Did you recall that, Council? I do recall that discussion, and so it sounds like tonight that maybe that discussion that we had publicly before is maybe in question right now. It's not fully decided that will happen, that there's still there may be some maintaining of ownership on that.
Yeah, I'll let John.
Yeah. So you're right, Councilmember. We have engaged Puyallup and Pierce County and Fife and Tacoma, excuse me, in a process to consider the turning back of that local signed segment of 167 on River Road. That said, it'll take investments to bring that up to standards of safety and state of good repair, to which our local partners would expect it to be in order to even consider taking it back at the local level. So what we're doing right now is we're working through a process, we've engaged Puyallup. Puyallup's given us some great feedback, as has Pierce County and Tacoma, on things that would have to be addressed to be able to consider taking it back. And we've been doing estimating work. We're going to be getting back out later this year and sharing that.
If I could interject, John, I thank you for that. If I recall right, I think, and again, it wasn't necessarily a vote, but there seemed to be strong support for Puyallup's interest in wanting to take that back once it was completed for perhaps some usage, if I recall right. But let me just ask a question. As you had those conversations with those three entities, Pierce County and Puyallup and Tacoma, Pierce County, were they, as a rule of thumb, were they in favor or open to taking that back? Was that a poll, or did some not even want it?
Well,
because I'm not going to pull public record to find out, but it'd be nice to know off the cuff.
Yeah, and I guess the way I was addressing is it's not like a certainty, right? This is something that we're considering and we've been proposing.
But when you briefed them, were they supportive of it?
I will say that the previous Pierce County executive was very supportive and an advocate, Executive Danmeyer.
Sure.
We've been just starting to kind of engage the new Pierce County executive, Ryan Mello, about this. I think it's an early conversation right now, so I don't know if I can attest to where Pierce County stands with a change in leadership. And then Tacoma has expressed some concern over some bridge structures, and I think it's an active conversation about who would own the responsibility for bridge structures. That would be probably a similar conversation with the city of Puyallup. So
I can't speak for the council, but I can speak for myself. I'd sure like to be briefed or involved in those discussions if they're discussing the fate of where those roads are going to go. And if we're a player, we should be at least at the table representing it to find out what's being said and how our decisions are being made. If we have a vested interest on either one way or the other, I think it's important that we would be involved in that.
You absolutely would, and it's not even possible without engaging yourselves and you being involved in the decision making. What I would say here is we've been doing a bunch of work in collaboration with each of our three partners, and we're putting that all together, consolidating. We've been doing estimating to figure out what it would cost to do some of the things that would need to be addressed. And our intention here is, I think probably maybe the end of the summer here, we'll be coming back to Puyallup and Pierce County and Tacoma, sharing that work, talking about what's next, talking about is there support, are there concerns, what are some of the things that would have to be negotiated. So it's just an ongoing dialogue and process right now.
So we will be involved in the
Yes,
decision-making process.
Absolutely.
We'll be informed. Okay, that's very important. Thank you. Some other questions. What do we anticipate the annual tolls to be once these tolls are in place? There must have been a projection of what the annual traffic and tolls would be for the state to receive from that.
Are you talking about in terms of revenue?
Revenue and the tolls, charging for the tolls, both ways.
I'd have to follow up with you on that.
Okay.
There's a very in-depth traffic and revenue analysis that was conducted, and then it was verified by the Office of the State Treasurer. We have a report that we're working on finalizing that captures all that, and that'll be publicly available. The report's not quite finished, but we're working on trying to finish it right now.
Well, I'm sure in terms of budget, they must have come up with some anticipation of what that amount's going to be so they can know how much to charge, right, to recoup some of their funds, I'd imagine. So moving on, toll escalation, I think it was mentioned here earlier. I think we saw that toll escalation hit place on 167 heading north. I think if I recall right, going north, and I head north quite a bit on 167, I think the toll on the far left lane was 50 cents to $1, and now it's quite a bit higher, and that probably was due to a toll escalation. So at this point, the fees that you projected for this area would be eligible at some point. I think you said some year coming in the future would be a toll escalation. I'm just curious, there was a dramatic shift going north. Toll escalation from 50 cents to $1 to, I think, quite a bit higher, $3 or $4, if I recall right, on moving that way in the HOV lane.
To try to capture this high clip, between the toll division and the transportation commission and the treasurer's office, one of the things I have to do every year is verify the sufficiency of tolls, that they are meeting the bond requirements to pay back the bonds and the capital investment in the cores, and then to can provide enough revenue to ensure that toll operations and for the maintenance and preservation of the corridor. And so I think the commission has done previously is they've kind of been reactive to the sufficiency needs, and on not really a standardized basis, have to go out into the corridors and go through a rate setting process to adjust tolls to ensure sufficiency. And I think what they're trying to do here with the gateway corridors is come up with a more annual standardized process to check in on that and make kind of finer tuned adjustments rather than go a few years with nothing and then have a bigger adjustment come out of nowhere.
Well, again, I'm just saying this. We're just kind of one small section, the 167. Certainly, the state, and its entity is a major bureaucracy of control and power and authority, all that stuff. But it just seems to me, based off what I've seen, the 167 moving north, starting out pretty low, and then recently in the last year or so going up significantly higher. My concern is, I'm not trying to assume any negative intent, because people typically don't dig tolls as a rule of thumb. They pay taxes, and pretty good taxes in Washington State for that matter, and even recently with a recent tax increase here in the state. And then to think of a toll, hey, let's start out easy with a 50 cent to $1 toll, and then come time for escalation time, all of a sudden we get this rate that goes up dramatically because they want to start out small, move easy. I'm not assuming bad intent. I'm just saying I'm concerned with that. Let's be straightforward. What's the annual income for this coming in each year? Which is why I asked the question. And at some point, is that sufficient enough to cover, or is it just kind of enough to get us started and then ease it up as toll escalation comes in? No response needed. I'm just saying that it's a concern from many constituents that are burdened by excess tolls. But lastly, I guess what is the state's view on this, the completion of 167? Is this kind of viewed as beyond just traffic relief, but really is it also viewed as some economic benefit of corridor of connecting the port with another viable transportation that would open up economic development? Is that another factor involved with that, connecting at the port?
Well, I think it very clearly, one of the objectives of the Gateway program in completing these missing links is providing more efficient direct connections between both ports and the distribution centers and hubs that they rely on, and that have that critical freight traffic to and from the port. And right now, much of that freight is required to traverse city arterials and state highways in the cities in very non-efficient ways. And this provides them, while it has a toll, it will provide them a much more direct and reliable trip, for the value of paying that toll. That helps with jobs. It helps with support, planned and active development. So all those things are factors, certainly.
Yeah. Two more questions, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, and thanks for letting me dig in here a little bit. We don't get presentations from the state very often, so we do want to ask the questions. And maybe some of this trickles back, maybe it doesn't, but at least publicly we have a chance to express it, and where it goes, it doesn't matter at that point other than expressing it. The 509's been completed, as I understand, correct?
No. It's all under construction contract. The 1 mile segment opened up. Yes.
Okay. Yes. From that, is it enough to notice any difference in terms of any traffic flow, or is it too insignificant to even make a difference on an improvement of traffic or flow?
For the first segment of 509, it's very notable here that it only opens up a 1 mile piece from I-5 over to kind of the south end of the airport, and it's a corridor that has significant warehouse operations and freight operations in it. We're seeing, I think, good early usage here. It's not tolled for the first 3 months, so we're seeing trucks use it. We're seeing freight use it. You won't know until you complete the full corridor.
Just didn't know if there was any preliminary. Last question, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for indulging. I want to go back to the River Road vacation back to municipalities. I think that's the way it should be done as a primary deal. Now, again, I think each entity should be studying that. How is it going to benefit their city or not? What costs may or may not be involved? How that could help economic development, specifically, at least in Puyallup, and with the corridor there. I'm concerned about, the whole idea of getting 167 completed. River Roads being that conduit has been that makeshift piece. So we have major trucks going through there, poor lighting, a lot of traffic, no center barrier. How many people have been killed, accidents, drunk drivers? I mean, that's been a real mess. So to have that continue as an alternative, this does not thrill me at all. If that 167, we're putting billions of dollars and tolls all into it. Let that be the primary connection, all right, and then turn that back to more of a local road. It shouldn't be an alternative 167. I really think that, and people could certainly drive it, but I wouldn't want to promote that as kind of being the, secondary one. I really think we need to take a look at that for public safety. I don't like taking River Road, especially at nighttime, because it's so dangerous. The idea of releasing that traffic onto the freeway where it's better lit is a better and safer way for people, and having that turn into kind of more of a municipal road and municipal uses for businesses in the area, I think is more ideal. Again, I'm not pro. I'm just concerned about safety, and I want to make sure that at least we in Puyallup have a place at the table to determine what is the safest and what is the best for economic development for our businesses who are on River Road, and then how could that be used as a possible synergy of walkability and a road that you wouldn't be afraid to walk on because it's now part of a city infrastructure. So I really want to key in on that, and I just hope that we're on the table, because it was my impression in a prior conversation that was kind of what was going to happen. It was going to go back to the municipality. What I'm hearing now is it's still in play, and maybe I misheard before. But as long as we're involved in discussions, I sure like a place at the table for us to be as a city. Thank you.
And two things I just say real briefly is when we open up the new expressway, it will draw traffic off of River Road, because a lot of the traffic on River Road will have a much more efficient route that makes sense for them to pay a small toll to use. We're very well aware of the safety issues and concerns on River Road and the opportunities to correct a lot of that. So we very much intend on keeping that process going and that conversation going about the turnback. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to need the support of our partners and probably the support of the legislature to see it through. But we're working in that direction.
Well, I was my final question, but you made a comment, so I'll respond to that. If in fact the state decides to keep that as an alternative, then I would be petitioning very hard. Okay, then make that safer, put some lighting in there. If you're going to actually keep it as an alternative highway, then go ahead and improve that if that's your will to do so. So again, that would be my contingency if they decide to go that route, and I would certainly have local voice for that to minimize that traffic and improve it as a true highway. If you're going to want to hold on to that, let's make it into a safe highway, because you would never reconstruct that or in a new setting the way that it is now. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Josh, thank you so much for your presentation. I have a couple of comments and then a question. So I shouldn't say when it started, because it's been going forever, but I know that the Chamber of Commerce, the city, there was a lot of collaboration here in Puyallup to support this project. It was on multiple legislative agendas, because it was moving freight and goods and spurring economic development. So my impression in those earlier days was not so much traffic, but economic development. And I could be wrong. That was just my impression at that time. So that, I think, is definitely a positive. And as far as River Road, I can see some concerns. I'm not opposed to it, but the maintenance and as you indicated, what condition it would be in before Puyallup would want to consider taking that on. I really appreciate all the work that has happened and is going on right now. I do need to, because we don't get WSDOT here very often, and I realize this is not necessarily your particular expertise, but I would be remiss to not at least make a plug. So I realize that there is the potential for Canyon Road to be extended down, and I think it connects to the 62nd Bridge or something, but that is going to bring traffic through. But my question is, we have seen so much traffic in downtown Puyallup. And I'm hoping that this alleviates some of it. But I will tell you, when I have to go to Tacoma at any peak hour time, I avoid it because Canyon Road exit backs up clear into Puyallup. And the people are getting off in Puyallup to try to bypass that. And I have to say, you know, I'm already in Puyallup, but I am one of those people. When I I'm sit on fire board, and when I used to have to go out to ex officio, but as 176th and like 22nd, it would take me almost an hour to get to the Canyon Road exit because it just backs up so significantly. If you go, anytime you're going through here, you see the impacts. And we've got the fair, we have a lot of things going on downtown, but because that exit is so congested, we are experiencing traffic issues here in the city. People are going out to Fruitland and everybody's trying to go around and come through our city because that exit is so problematic. So I certainly hope that WSDOT is going to be looking at that, because while we're doing this thing over here, the impacts that are really significant, and we have the fair, and they're turning into a powerhouse dynamic year-round event center, which already brings traffic through. So I just want to make sure that I'm highlighting that issue. I'm going to be out of here in 6 months, but I do see that as a concern, and I hope that that is somewhere in WSDOT's future plans, and I just wanted to do my part to make sure that I highlighted that. And again, thank you so much for all of that you have done, and excited to see this project moving forward. Oh, and I do have one more question. I apologize. So the tolls for the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, this is my question. My understanding is that originally it was slated for those to be removed once the state loans or bonds or whatever, I don't know how they find it, once that is repaid. But I do understand that there's the ongoing maintenance costs. So on these tolls, there is no plan to remove them at this juncture?
The way that the legislation is written is there's an obligation to repay the debt, and the debt is issued by the Treasurer's Office, and so they'll determine the terms and the duration of the debt. Once it's paid off, then it goes back into it's a legislative discretionary call. The one thing, I'll be absolutely transparent in saying this, is when it comes to these expressways that we're building, the footprint and number of lanes of them is designed to be managed through tolling. If you pull the plug on tolling, all of the traffic modeling and all the historical work that's been done will show you would need more lanes. And if you don't add those additional lanes, you would instantaneously, essentially, end up gridlocking the corridor, especially during the peak periods, just like I-5, say. So tolling is very much a traffic management tool. And if you take it away, you need to be ready for what the consequence that comes with that is. And we're talking about decades in the future here. So beyond any of our discretion here, and it's ultimately a legislative call.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you very much, John, for being here. I don't think we have any more questions. I think the long and short of it, in the fall 2029, people are going to be able to drive on that freeway. Cost is going to be about $1.20 to $3, and there will be a low-income program. There'll be 2 lanes in each direction, correct? And tolls will not end, as we just discovered, or up to the discretion of the state legislature. And there was actually discussion years ago of this adding 100,000 jobs to this particular area. And I don't know if those job estimates are still the same, but that's what it was at one time. So thank you very much for being here, okay?
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. So with that, we're going to move on to 5B, and this is to accept a grant from Pierce County Human Services, authorize the use of city opioid settlement funds, and authorize an agreement with Catholic Community Services. Christian Hoffman, our emergency management manager, please go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Castema, fellow council members. Kirsten Hoffman, your emergency management manager, and I'm here tonight to request the acceptance of a grant that we received for the hotel pilot project to authorize staff to use city opioid settlement funds and then enter into an agreement with Catholic Community Services for the hotel project. So briefly on project history, in February it will have been 5 years ago that we launched this project. And you can see, as you recall, the different phases that we have moved through as we provided these services locally. We are right now, today, July 1st, starting phase 6, which will go July 1st, 2025 through the end of June 30th, 2026. On February 11th, 2025, you approved extending the hotel project through the end of June 30th, 2026, pending grant funding. I'm very excited that as of last week, we did receive a grant, HHP funds from Pierce County Human Services to support this project. Briefly, some project statistics to date. We have served 224 people through the hotel project. We have been at capacity since it launched in February of 2021, and we currently have 60 people on the wait list. And you'll recall that that is maintained by Puyallup Police Officer Chad Pearson and our Community Services Planning Specialist, Marlena Pellegrin. So we applied for a grant in March of 2024. At the time, we were notified that that grant had the potential to be for 2 years. We received that first year of funding, which we used for phase 5 of the project, which just ended yesterday. We received an extension to that funding. We were just notified last week that we received a grant, and that's for the performance period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. There was a reduction across the board with that Pierce County Human Services HHP funding allocation. All of the recipients had a 10% reduction in those funds for this next performance period. Our hope is to bridge that 10% gap so that we can continue to provide these services locally, and we request the use of $95,956 in opioid settlement funds to keep the project whole and to also account for that additional increase of service costs as we anticipate that costs might go up over the next year. So the city receives city opioid settlement funds, and we've identified these as that potential source for this project. And we asked our case management team to provide information about hotel participants and their history and current use of opioid. 92% of the total participants in the program have indicated that they have used or are currently using opioids. And of the people currently in the program, the far majority have indicated that they are using or have used opioids in the past. When people enter the hotel project, they are met with a case manager who begins to work with them on a stability plan. This is part of the questions that are asked for those folks so that they can be provided services so that they can achieve those goals on that housing stability plan. If we don't receive the opioid funds, we'll have to look at some different options to reduce the services of the project. That could be the elimination of one of the staff positions. We would like to avoid eliminating the number of rooms because we are at capacity and we continue to have increased demand for the project. So we would ask you tonight to accept the grant funds in the amount of $612,504, authorize staff to use the $95,956 in opioid settlement funds, and authorize us to enter into an agreement with Catholic Community Services. We will continue to explore funding for this project. We are very thankful for the partnership with Pierce County Human Services and the support that they continue to offer us for this program.
I have a question, Kirsten. What is the fund balance right now in the opioid settlement? Is that the entire amount, or is there a larger amount that this is subtracting from?
The entire amount, I'm looking over at staff, $614,000 is the current balance of the opioid fund.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept a grant from Pierce County Human Services and authorize the use of city opioid settlement funds.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, excellent. Those opposed? Okay, with that, it's passed. This does not require any kind of second reading or roll call. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Kirsten, thank you. Let's move on to 5C. I know that Ryan has been wading through this. Ryan Wheaton, he's the Chief Planning Officer with Sound Transit and actually Pierce Transit. He'll give us a presentation. This is for Pierce Transit Long Range Plan presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Ryan Wheaton, Chief Planning Officer at Pierce Transit, here to give an update on where we are with our long range plan. We came in front of you and many other groups like this. We did actually 55 events late last year. So we went to 10 city and county council meetings, also did some open houses and a bunch of community events where we sought input on our initial round for our long range plan, which we were working in conjunction with your city and others on their comp plan updates. Through that process, we had over 700 responses through our online survey, from which 75% are active transit users. The input that we got was fairly common in what we expected, just not exactly the intensity that we expected. So 75% of the people that gave us responses really focused on more service. So whether that is more frequent service, new routes, or extended hours, we heard that loud and clear. Another thing that we heard from councils like this, from our own board, and from the community was that people are growing a little bit tired of hearing an aspirational plan. They want to hear a fiscally responsible and sustainable plan from agencies like Pierce Transit. And so we actually took that feedback and went back, not to the drawing board, but certainly made some pretty significant edits, which we'll talk about tonight. And what you see in this second version, which we're bringing to our board this month, is a plan that is grounded in fiscal responsibility and feasibility. We took this through our finance department a number of times to make sure that we're all on board with the fact that we can actually not just perform the service that we are noting at these different levels that we'll talk about, but also making sure that they're sustainable into the future. We realize that our baseline, we can go a little bit higher than we are right now. We're operating roughly at 470,000 service hours, and through our service recovery plan, we can get back up to about 482, and then we need to stop adding service at our current funding level. We also note that we did pull out some elements that people have seen in our last few iterations of our long-range plans, and that most notably is BRT, not something that we've given up on totally, but something that we're pulling out as a dollar amount funded project that doesn't have funds attached to it. So what we've told groups that we've been out speaking with the last couple of weeks is that we're still interested in fast, frequent, reliable service like BRT, but until we can actually get full grant funding and have a fiscal plan to bring that forward, we're including it in the plan, but not including it as a project that you're going to see routes on a map for. Couple notes for what you should expect to see in the detailed plans that we'll make available and are available currently online. One is that we're looking to strengthen connections. We recognize that span for how long the buses run each day and also frequently for how often they come is important. But what's most important is that people can actually make connections to multiple routes. So whether you're going inside Puyallup or you're connecting Puyallup to another city, we really need to strengthen those connections at transit centers in particular. And then also looking to enhance access that people have. And that comes primarily from making sure that our high capacity routes, the ones that carry the most people, are getting the most attention, and that when we can make improvements to the system by adding new routes, that we do that thoughtfully. So a couple notes on what you have seen from us over time. We currently run roughly about 6 million trips, so 6 million local bus trips per year. If you look all the way back to 2009, 2010, 11, for reference sake, we were doing about 12 million trips per year in those years. And what we saw through 2011 and 12, and we had a pretty significant reduction, not just in service hours, as you see here indicated in this graph, but also in our service area. We had cities and parts of unincorporated Pierce County that left. We failed a ballot measure in 2011 and 12 that would have increased our sales tax rate up to 0.9%. And the thing that we note is that we've tried to claw back to a reasonable level of service. But since 2012, had we passed that ballot measure, what you would have seen here reflected is another $620 million worth of service that we weren't able to put on the street because we failed that ballot measure in 2012. Our baseline scenario, what we're operating with now, I mentioned earlier, we're at about 470,000 service hours, primarily because of the loss in staff that we had through the pandemic. So we're up to speed with bus operators. We're still struggling a little bit with maintenance folks. If HR was here right now, they would remind me to tell you that they did hire 4 new maintenance staff members in the last couple months, but that is still an area that we're working on improving. So what we expect to see over the next few years at 0.6% is that our stream community line that runs on Pacific, we note that we have 2 lines run there, Route 1 and Stream Community Line. They're going to connect to the Spanaway Transit Center that's going to open up in about a little less than a month. So that's 2 months. That's the one that will open up at the end of August, and we will actually kick off with service beginning in September. That's a big deal for us because we don't have any transit center south of South Hill, and for us that also allows potential expansion in the future. We know that we need to increase service, so we've looked at our most important or most frequent trips that we see and routes that are going to connect to future Sound Transit link stations. And so we've noted that in the out years as we look at this 20-year plan, that we know that there is a demand coming for us that we currently don't serve Tacoma Dome Station with that many local routes, and we need to in the future because there will be a light rail extension that is there in roughly a decade or so. We looked at 2 additional scenarios other than baseline. One is what service looks like for us at an additional 0.3% sales tax. So we're currently at 0.6. We looked at what 0.9 would allow us to do, and what we see is about a 24% increase in service hours. Most notable here is that we're able to increase service almost across the board. For a city like Puyallup, you do see some significant gains up front with this scenario. Most notably, Route 400 and 402 would all see improvements in and out of the city of Puyallup. And we would also see some improvements with our stream community line. So we would look at increasing the frequency for stream and combining it with the Route 1 so that there's not duplication along Pacific Avenue. But certainly the other issue that we're seeing here is that costs are continuing to rise faster than revenue. And so this helps shore up what we see in our fiscal future at Pierce Transit. Scenario B is elevated from 0.9%, and this is us taking a look at what we could do at a sales tax rate of 1.1%. And in these conversations, we've noted to people that sales tax rates vary from agency to agency. Pierce Transit, for its size, is the lowest funded agency for sales tax, which is the only revenue source we can collect other than fares and grants. Agencies like Community Transit in Everett, Kitsap Transit in Bremerton, and then Spokane and Olympia's intercity transit all have significantly more sales tax capacity than we do. And I mentioned earlier that $620 million that we haven't collected since 2012. You certainly see that in the service degradation for a service like ours versus a service increase for theirs because they're able to just compound those improvements over the years. But scenario B is where we see a significant amount of increase, so up to 55% increase from our current service. Puyallup would get the same increases in new routes, in frequency, but also would get a new route that would serve the Shaw Road area. We have, in these presentations, tried to not put routes down on maps, but tried to explain them and illustrate what they could do because we recognize that this is a little bit of ways out. So we are projecting based on where population growth is going to be, but should we ever get to this level in the next 20 years, we would certainly come back and have conversations with cities where we see growth to make sure that we're providing the increases in service that they need. But again, we're focusing on fiscal responsibility and sustainability while still improving frequency and the operating hours across the board. Next step for us, we're in a period right now of collecting public comment. Our online portal has been open for folks to submit their responses and feedback for the second version for the last couple weeks. We are running it through the beginning of August. We'll be in front of our board in a couple weeks to have a conversation about this plan. And we'll do a public comment public hearing in August, and then hopefully get a vote from our council then. But we're hoping also that you, your staff, and your constituents will take a look at piercetransit.org to provide some feedback on what they see in this plan. If there are things missing or if there are questions about anything in the plan or what we've done in the past, we are certainly open to those, but wanted to put that out there, provide some updates, and also encourage folks to give us feedback. With that, I'll turn things back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ryan. Any questions? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for that report. I know that you mentioned, HR having difficulty finding drivers and things like that, and I know that since the COVID, that's increased. I'm wondering a couple of questions here, and I guess having ridden on some public form of transportation, sometimes I've noticed that there is not any fare enforcement. You have fares that are really designed for whatever reason, and I've seen countless times where a bus driver will allow a person to get on there that didn't have any fare, and many times those folks didn't have fare, ended up being the problems on the bus, and so I guess I don't need an answer from you, but I just want to put it out there. I don't think it takes Einstein to figure out, there are some public safety issues at times on public transportation that are, not just an imagination. And I'm sure that those could be pushed under the rug and say over the course of how many, trips we make, it's small, but nevertheless, it's significant. And even there's national data that shows that many bus drivers, according to national data, feel they've been harassed or threatened while there's a driver because there's no enforcement for bad behavior. Now, I know that you've done some investment with hiring and contracting out to various police officers and things like this. And again, I don't need an answer from you. This is not the venue or the time, but it is a chance to give feedback for constituents who may not feel safe driving because of, let's call it an erosion over years where bad behavior is not enforced because of sympathetic, they're having a hard time and harden their luck, and so we're going to let them in. But the people harden their luck oftentimes can be really problematic for others who are just trying to get from point A to point B. It's my hope that there's a restoration of really empowering bus drivers through your contracted police to remove and trespass folks who are being problematic for the safety of passengers, as well as for the reputation of Pierce Transit, who deserves a reputation that needs to be protected. And the old saying that a few bad apples ruin the bunch is true sometimes. And so this is a little bit of a digression, but you're talking about long-term plans. I think this should be in the long-term plan to maintain the image and the restore good behavior, decency of people who ride the bus or in public transportation. So I hope there's a good look at that. I didn't hear any of that discussion here today, and no one likes to talk about it, but it's a real problem, and it could be, again, it could be discounted because, again, when you look at the data, for every few that we have that are bad, there's a lot of good. Well, and that's the case in the city. We have a few bad behaviors, but you still have police enforcement, even though the majority of the people are good. And so anyway, that's an issue of public safety, and I think an opportunity for not just, and I'm not going to say Pierce Transit, I'm saying that because you're here, because I think it's an issue that I've seen firsthand. But I think it's also a cultural issue that I hope that we as a culture really begin to deal with bad behaviors, no matter what company it is or entity it is, because it really does tend to pull down and weigh the others. But thank you for what you do. Thank you for Pierce Transit and the service they provide. Again, I'm supportive, but I just would encourage and challenge, and I believe you'd find an overwhelming support from the majority of public if, in fact, they took a firmer stance on really, enforcing some decent behaviors, and then, enforcing fares that oftentimes will bring folks in the bus. They're just really not, they probably shouldn't be in the bus because they're impaired or whatever. So anyway, I take that as a positive objective look at it as something that we can all improve on. Every organization, including schools and other entities, really need to enforce and model good behavior and hold people accountable with bad behavior because it really affects the rest of us. Thank you so much.
Point taken. Thanks for that comment.
Councilmember Dorr.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan, for your presentation. I have a couple of questions, and my information could be outdated. It is my understanding that Puyallup is a sender of funds. We send more than we receive. Is that still accurate?
This is the question I was expecting to get in Puyallup, and I never have a precise answer. I think that in the context that you're speaking, yes, that is accurate.
Okay, and so we've had some conversations lately as far as housing and transit-oriented, getting people onto the public transit, but it seems like we're having, Puyallup has a difficulty with that. So my district, I'm the most southern district, and Shaw Road is, Councilmember Whitting and it runs through our district. It's 3 miles from Shaw Road to Meridian. And the last time Pierce Transit was here, I had asked, because I had received a constituent inquiry from Crystal Ridge, which is east of Shaw Road, that they were not able to take the shuttle, that it had not been expanded there. So has that been addressed? Is that still accurate, that east of Shaw Road cannot access the shuttle, nor can they access the bus system? I'm just looking for the current status on that.
Councilmember Dorr, this is where I let you on the secret that the guy that runs planning at Pierce Transit is geographically challenged. So I'm familiar with Shaw Road, but I don't know where Crystal Ridge is. So if you give me a day, I will get a response back, and I'll follow up with whomever was here speaking to make sure that we answered that question. So give me about 24 hours, and I'll get an answer to you.
Okay, so, and I appreciate that, but my concern, I don't know if it's concern, but I have concerns about this. I'm very supportive of the public transit system. But with the growth, with all the different things that are happening, we saw this with Sound Transit, especially with Sound Transit 2. When they came out for Sound Transit 3, my constituents, they had not seen the benefit of Sound Transit 2 yet, and then there was another funding request. And so it used to be, at least in my district, the bus would run in my most economically challenged or depressed areas, and the service has been cut. It was cut years ago and never restored. And then I'm not quite sure how we asked them to do this, and I'm not opposed to it. I'm looking for your feedback. They can't access public transportation. They certainly can't take an Uber, or some of them. How do we message this, and how do we explain this to the taxpayers of Puyallup, that we send more than we receive? And I understand that we are paying for connection, the rest of the system, but we need to get them into that system, and they don't have the ability to do that. Is there a good explanation for that you can help me with?
That's a fair question. I think that best option for us would be, I think that there are areas of all of Pierce County that we haven't done a good job historically of connecting with, and there are concentrated areas that we're in frequently. I think that your district is probably one that we can do a better job of interfacing with. If you don't mind me contacting you and getting some information on groups or events that we can go speak with folks, I think that would help us understand that area a little better. I mean, certainly in the time that there's been a lot of growth in and outside of Puyallup, it coincides with that chart I showed earlier where we've cut back service. So I think that that's an area we can do better in. But overall, how do we approach folks and talk about what better service looks like? I think we start with the things that people can access that aren't a straight local bus, and that is Vanpool. Depending on where folks live, it's that paratransit eligibility. But those don't matter to every single person. I think that we can do a better job of getting out and connecting with those constituents. So let me find out what that question was, and let me find out specifically what services they're talking about, and I'll follow up with you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure, my pleasure.
Councilmember Whitting.
Just had a couple of questions. what percentage of your funding comes from sales tax versus fares?
Well, that's a good question. So it fluctuates a little bit each year, but if you figure about high 70s or low 80s, so we're right around 80% or so right now from sales tax. Over the years, we've seen a reduction in what percentage comes from our fares. I don't know the exact number this year, but I would say it's less than 10% right now. In a large part, that comes from our reduced programs. So we see reduced fares for seniors, folks with disabilities. We also see reduced fare, anybody that has an ORCA pass that's through their program through work. They don't pay full fare for those as well. We've seen an increase in ORCA. And then one thing from the last 2 years that has had a surprising impact has been youth ride-free. So we went from about 7% of our ridership being students up to 19 years old to this year and last year we're about 15%. So those things coupled with not having a fare increase for about 15 or 16 years has led to that.
And what does your ridership look like in this area? I ride a bus up in Seattle, and obviously parking's a big problem, so people would rather take the bus than mess with parking. Down here, the parking isn't as big a problem.
Yeah.
I won't say it's not a problem, but what does the ridership percentage look like down here?
I don't know the percentage of our system. I can get that information tomorrow. I think for a city like Puyallup, we're happy with the ridership. We see strong ridership on longer routes. So the 400, we see good ridership for folks going back and forth along the way to downtown Tacoma. We see pretty good ridership going up to Federal Way. So along Meridian on 402, we see good ridership. The runner program, which has Midland and Puyallup split, the Puyallup section is our highest runner, our on-demand service. So that's the highest one in the system. And we actually, I wouldn't tell Tacoma and Gig Harbor, but we see the best functioning runner system here. So the amount of people able to get a ride when they try to book one is highest in Puyallup just because of the way the zone works. So we're happy with the ridership, but I think to Councilmember Doerr's point, we certainly know that there is a demand for more service for the amount of revenue that gets put in.
And so I'm just looking for a guesstimate here. What is good ridership?
What's good ridership for us? It depends on the route. So we've categorized them urban, core routes, and then rural routes. Most of the routes that are in our Puyallup are based on being outside of the core and urban. So we consider most of them to be rural, except for the ones that go in and out of Federal Way and Tacoma. So riders per service hour, if we're up above 10 to 15, we would consider that to be a really strong route. And we don't typically care how long the person's on. It's really just the amount of people that we count getting on. So we would typically see about that. And then I don't know the numbers for Puyallup's paratransit trips, but I know historically Puyallup has always been a really stronghold for the amount of trips that we do for our citizens that have disabilities that preclude them from getting onto local service.
Yeah, clearly, it'd be nice to have more ridership so that we could pay our bills with the fares. Right. On the other hand, it's hard to increase ridership if we don't have a core bus route going down Shaw Road.
Point taken.
Councilmember Doerr mentioned that. She mentioned me by name, so I will toot that horn as well. We used to have a route, and it disappeared, and now we've got a lot of traffic coming down Shaw Road. I think people would be happy if they had a convenient way to get to downtown
Sure.
by public transit. Anyway, just some thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right, and I only have one question, and that's obviously all the rage right now is Elon Musk's robotaxi and integrating those into transit systems. I've actually made a few connections asking if we could get a display of that here in Puyallup to have people go back and forth between our parking garage and our farmers market. There are some limitations, they're doing it in Austin and places like that. And in San Francisco, they're all over the place, driverless cars. I mean, we're not used to that. This might be a way to get us used to it. But is that at all being discussed at this point?
Yeah, we started looking at it in 2018. We did a tour. It was pretty early. At that point, you were still seeing the very autonomous focused cars. Now you see them put into regular cars, so they're a little more flexible. We tried to do a pilot at Point Defiance at one point. That was a real stronghold when we shopped the idea around. People really liked the idea of doing one at Point Defiance because it made sense to them. The problem at the time was that none of the vehicles could make it up more than a 12% grade, and it just ruled out that area. We worked with WashDOT in 2020 to try to get grant money to do a pilot in Lakewood that would have taken people it was a circulator from Lakewood Town Center to the sounder station that's in Lakewood. And since then, we pulled back a little bit. We're still in talks with Parks Tacoma about some ideas that they have. But if there's an idea that the city of Puyallup has, let me know, give me a call, and we're happy to have that conversation.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
I'll be talking to you soon.
Sounds good.
Okay, any further questions? Ryan, thank you for coming here. I look for, Councilmember Gilliam.
Thank you. I just wanted to throw my name in the hat. There was a comment made earlier tonight with District 3 with just specific to 2 council members, but I'd also like to recognize I support their ideas for Shaw Road, and I'm a part of that team. So I just wanted to put my name out there.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilliam. Ryan, thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to move on. The city manager is not present at this meeting. We have Kirsten Hoffman, who is kind of substituting as city manager. Do you have any comments you would like to make instead of Steve Kirkley, the city manager?
Thank you, Mayor Castema. Just a reminder that your next meeting is July 15th. That's a study session. You'll have 2 items during that session, one on the mid-biennium budget and the other on critical areas ordinance updates. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go into council member reports. Councilmember Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that I had the opportunity to go to Pine and Page on Sunday, and they got a new shipment of books already in today. It's a great store. Puyallup is so excited to have a bookstore back. We also have a bookstore up next to TJ Maxx, so it's nice to actually get your hand on a paper book. Wanted to welcome them to Puyallup. We talked about the concerts in the park, but I do want to highlight that we have the Kiwanis, kids, park events, and also the movies in the parks. So just wanted to highlight that for the public. And other than that, I don't have any other reports out. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilliam.
Thank you, Mayor Castema. I was really grateful for the Parks and Rec Park proclamation. I'm really proud of our team and how well they're maintaining our parks and activities for bringing community together. So I did want to do a formal shout out to the team and say well done, and I'm proud of you and thank you. I also wanted to follow up with the non-emergency police phone number in case anybody has any issues on the 4th of July. And if I could just do a quick, let's just remember we want to celebrate, but we want to be respectful with our celebration. So I remember being a punk kid, playing with the cannonball and aiming at each other. But I also remember a friend getting one to the eyeball and needing to go to the emergency room. So I just want to say, family and friends, please be careful, be wise, be smart, take care of each other. But if you do have a need, of course, 911, but also the non-emergency number is 253-841-5415. So I just wanted to put that on the record. And last but not least, happy anniversary, 19 years to Deputy Mayor King and his lovely bride.
Thank you. Hear, hear. Copy that from all of us. Next, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to speak to the constituent who came and talked about the speeding near the hospital a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about that. I certainly empathize with her. Most of you that know me, I've been on the council. I've been a big proponent of how sensitive I am to speeding in our city, specifically like down Meridian, where it's our main corridor, and people come down there like a highway. And you know, and most of you also know that I'm not a huge fan for the red light cameras. And when we renewed those contracts, I think I was one of the few, if not the only, that was resistant to that. Just because I'm having a difficult time with that. But there's one that I don't have a difficult time with, and that's speeding cameras that are going over the speed limit in really critical areas where public safety is of paramount concern. I certainly don't want to see them in every aspect within the city, but there's certain areas where there should be this is a no-no. You just don't go through. You're going to pay a price if you do, literally. And I understand that there is some limitations that municipalities can utilize speeding cameras. If I recall right, they're only allowed under our state code for school zones. And I guess I'd like to have a question to our attorney, Joe. Is there any allowances, Joe, in addition to speeding cameras being allowed in school zones, that it might qualify, or if it's not implicitly stated, could there be a case that we could say another sensitive area where there's certainly children and weak folks who are vulnerable around hospitals, there could be some eligibility, or is that just black and white, not allowed, or is there any area of gray zone that we could petition that for areas like they're critical, like our Good Samaritan Hospital area?
I am not aware of anything specific to hospitals. There are some other provisions for monitoring speed besides school zones, but I would have to research state law because they've made tweaks every year for a number of years. So I'd have to go back and take a look at the statute to find out just where you can put speed cameras.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I'm not speaking for the council, but unless I hear some council concern, I'd like Joe to investigate and see if there's any allowances that the city of Puyallup could consider for speed cameras if in fact we felt there were areas within our city that were problematic. I would love Joe to look at that. Would there be any objection for me to have him inquire of that? Okay, hearing none, would you mind, Joe, to see if we can get a little tweak on that? Because I'd certainly like to see some of those enforced in certain areas that are critical in our city. Thank you for that. Yeah, so July 10th, the first Thursday after 4th, is our first Concert in the Park series. Looking forward to that. I've been hearing all summer long, or the beginning of summer, Meeker Days, everyone's very excited about that, so I would encourage all to come down, and we anticipate, a full crowd like we do every year. So bring your lawn chairs, bring your blankets, bring your fun, and we'll have a good time, and it'll be wonderful to be there. I appreciate it. I get approached by a lot of people within our city who are within the faith-based community, and they've time and time again have expressed how important it is for prayer. And so while I realize that not everyone in Puyallup maybe ascribes to faith, there are many who do. And because we have this thing called religious liberty to express our faith freely under our First Amendment of our Constitution, I want to thank those who exercise that, because certainly we could use that, and I believe that our city is benefited from that faith-based community who exercises that important aspect of prayer. And with that in mind, I'd like to take a shout out to Marla, and I haven't seen her for a while, so if anybody sees Marla, tell her I said hello, but hopefully if she's watching, she's getting it too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. I don't know if you could tell, but my voice, I'm losing it this evening, so I will not provide any comments. I think all of you have done a wonderful job. Thank you for the job that you do, and look forward to all the events, concerts in the park, etc. So with that, we're going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.